Welcome back to Rainmaker University. We're here with module 24, okay, which means that you have an incredible library of skill sets on how to, really level up and take your business to the next level. And today we're going to be talking about the skill stack that pays the bills. All right, guys. So why is that so important? Well, you're going to find out about what are some of the myths out there and what are some of the realities in terms of being able to look at this seriously as a business and make a difference financially for yourself and your future. So, Randy, kick it off with the delusion of the dreamers. That's a good start for us.
I have a couple of friends who, whatever subject you bring up on money, success, business, entrepreneurship, self-development, personal growth, health, wellness, whatever. Oh, yes, the expert on that is, I read this book by so if you should listen to the podcast by this guy, you should. They can recite chapter and verse of every seminal book podcast on the topic, but have no understanding of how to apply that in their life. They can give you the data dump, but they've never made the connection between the skill set or the knowledge or the breakthrough or the action and then actually applying it in their life. And I'm sure everyone who's watching this, if you've been in the business any amount of time, you know the difference between motivated amateurs and skilled professionals. And the difference, meaning the delusional dreamers who fill the WhatsApp chats with emojis and positive statements and affirmations and all of that stuff, but never get out of the starting block. So, as Ann told you, what today is about is all these different skill sets, and we've done a lot of them, right? Today, we want to kind of key in on and say, these are the ones that make you the most money, create the most growth, create the strongest duplication in the fastest possible way.
Well, to add to that, I will tell you that, when you're talking to people who can recite all the great speakers and thinkers of the world, the inspiration is going to come from, and the motivation comes from taking the mindset and mastering. Okay, mastering the skills, because mindset is an inspirational aspect. Okay, we all come back from incredible events or heard a speaker or sat in on a training and got all excited, but then it's like a cold bath, okay, afterwards. It kind of wears off. That warmth wears off and it becomes cold. And the reality is that it's about implementation. And so mindset alone is not going to drive the success. Mindset is going to start the engine, okay, and get things moving. But from that point forward, it's about the skill that keeps the lights on, and it's about the skill that drives you to the next step and the implementation of what needs to really happen, guys. So I'm going to say, don't confuse inspiration. Don't confuse the igniting of your excitement and your mindset as taking action, because ultimately you've got to put into action the steps. And that's why we always talk about those skill sets for success, the 5 major skill sets that you really need to master. And we're going to be talking a little more about that today, because it's important that you look at that. What are you doing in order to get better at meeting people? I got to tell you, Randy, hands down, that was one of my big issues, is being able to not just meet a person, but engage in conversation that was meaningful. That's an important aspect of our business, so that we feel comfortable about it. We don't feel like we're, the person that spams people and gets people into corners and then doesn't let them out of the corner. It's a skill set. And we've talked about that in one of the other modules. Or it could also be, how are you inviting people? Okay, get comfortable with that. I love our business. I am so bulletproof in terms of our business that, to me, and I know Randy has mentioned this in the past as well, we look at people with our eyes crossed, like, how could you not get excited about this? So that's a second skill set. Okay. Working your list while you're inviting people. So it keeps growing. It becomes organic. And you keep adding people to that list because you're out and doing your life in day-to-day business and day-to-day living. And then it's presentation. And we've given a wonderful resource of presentation tools in order for you to feel comfortable, or a live event, or even the Saturday events, or the Thursday night, leadership academies are all ways in which you can feel comfortable presenting. And then it's following up. Okay. And the follow up is where the gold is, and being comfortable, okay, in helping people to come to a logical conclusion. So mindset is not the mastery. Mindset ignites the excitement of moving forward. So, Randy, talk a little bit about the anatomy of the skill stack.
Yeah, we're going to break these down into 5 buckets. The first bucket is communication. And you should know, Ann and I do a 90-minute or so get together with all the diamond directors and above every month. And this is one of the things we talked about, literally the very last one we just did a few days ago, which was, hey, communication is one of the ultimate get traction skills, the thing that when it puts you on the when you're on the road and you need that tire to grip and grab traction and create acceleration. In our business, that's communication. And 2 subsets that we kind of challenged the diamonds was speaking and writing. And writing is the one that's kind of surprises people, I think, these days, because nobody writes anymore, or at least they think they don't. But what they don't understand is, yeah, you don't have a secretary you're dictating a letter to, which she typed out in a thing we used to call a typewriter. It's you with your chubby little fingers on your smartphone sending a text. But that text is writing. That's you on an email putting out a note to the team. That's you making a post on a team site. That's that's writing. And that's a skill, because what we want to know is, can we articulate vision? Can we convey belief? And can we influence people to act? And more importantly, can we influence them to act without manipulation? Speaking, of course, we're usually talking about presenting, right? And that might be on a Zoom, that might be on a stage in front of 1,000 people. It could be in just a small group at the coffee shop in a breakout, in between sessions at one of the Ascend events. But can you convey that information in a way that empowers people? And the difference is, hey, I can tell the story. Here's how I became a diamond director and make lots of money and beat my chest. Okay, what's the point other than aggrandizing, or whatever that word is, my ego? Now, can you convey the story of how you became a diamond director and what the lesson is for the person who's a silver or a bronze who wants to become a diamond director? That's the kind of communication we're talking about. And what's the best way to do that, by the way? It's going to be this next thing that Ann tells you.
Storytelling. Okay. And I have to say thank you to Randy, because there are many times that I've been asked to tell a story or to share my experience, and he's really coached me and a lot of other people on how to be even more impactful and compelling when you're telling a story. And he hinted at that what he just said, and that is taking the story and making it meaningful and relatable to the person that is sitting in front of you. I just told a story at the International Convention in Istanbul about my own personal experience, having broken my leg, and then shared some of the experience of taking that experience and creating wonderful new relationships with people as a result of that, and how it impacted people's lives there at the rehab center, and also sharing it in a way that people in the audience could relate to how that might impact the way in which they're relating to people in sharing a story. And it's just so important to make it relatable, but make it emotional, make it something that connects people's hearts. Because I will tell you that one of the most amazing aspects, I should say, of storytelling is transferring belief, getting people to understand that what you've been through, okay, they can break through as well. And that breakthrough is what gets them from hoping that this is going to work to believing that it's going to work through your stories. And that's powerful. I saw people's faces. Saw people saying, wow, if she could get out of bed after not being able to move and do the kinds of things that happened as a result of that, that's a powerful way to share a story, or even a small story that your people can relate to when you're doing a meeting. So think about that. Storytelling is really the first step to the next one. And that is, Randy, talk about that.
Coaching. What makes Jeff Higginson such a great leader? Because he's a great coach. Coaches baseball, he coaches football, he coaches pee wee, he coaches little league, he coaches high school kids. He's coaching. What do we do when we coach someone? We paint the picture of where they want to go. We talk about the process of how they get there. We're probably going to use storytelling to do that. And then we're going to impact real, tangible knowledge. Like uh, he's got a machine that fires baseballs out at the diamond at the players at 100 mile an hour. And what he's got to do to prepare them is to say, here's how to put your feet. Here's how much to crouch down. Here's where to place your glove hand. Here's where to place. It's coaching. Like we're saying, okay, we're going to go through the process. We're going to create the hot 25 list. We're going to find the people who are the most ambitious, most successful. We're going to approach them first. We're going to make a compelling invitation. Here's what that looks like. Hey, do we need to role play some? And we might practice some with people. Then we're going to talk about how to use the tools for presentations, how to follow up after they've seen a presentation. Then the other big part of this, that in terms of practical application with Rain International, it's going to be doing a monthly coaching session, what we call the counseling. But that's just coaching. It's a monthly coaching session with your frontline people on taking them through, hey, here's the process we're going to want you to go through in order to get to where you want to go next. That's bucket 3. Would you please share bucket number 4?
Yeah, and that leads into recruiting and relationship building. I had a conversation just the other day with an old friend who said, hey, what are you up to these days? And I said, hey, let's catch up. So, we got onto Zoom. It's somebody that I really admire, terrific lady. And the first thing I said to her was, so what's happening with you? Because I wanted to understand what was happening in her life and how what I know we have here can be a solution. And the best way to do that is to make it, as we said, relatable. And I found out some things that were going on in her life. So I found myself sitting in a position of being a consultant, a counsel, giving her my suggestions and recommendations, because it's about building trust. I mean, if you really want to be in a great relationship with your team, you've got to build that trust. And that trust comes from making commitments and keeping the trust. It comes from identifying how this could be relatable to them. What is the impact for them? How this could make a difference in their life. And then helping them to guide them through decisions, coming to a logical conclusion. Because I'll tell you guys, if you try to force somebody, a round peg into a square hole, you're going to keep having to do that day after day after day. And nobody wants to be able to be in a convincing mode. This is about helping people to seriously see how what we have here at Rain can make a difference on their health, on their future, their vitality, their financial circumstances, whatever it is. But if you don't create that space of relationship building and trust, it probably won't happen to the level that you're looking for. So, talk a little bit about the next one, Randy.
This bucket we categorized as personal mastery because you can't create professional mastery in any area if you don't have personal mastery. What does that mean? That means you have things like emotional regulation. What does that mean? Well, I'm coaching a new softball team. I'm going to meet them the first time this Sunday. And you know what I'm going to say is I say to every new team, if you want to win a championship, you got to learn how to win and you got to learn how to lose and how to stay equilibrium in the meantime. The greatest teams in every sport will lose. The difference in the ones who become championships is when they lose, they tip their cap to the other team. They said, hey, they outplayed us today. They had a better game, a better match. The other boxer did better, whatever. I didn't get it done today. But they keep that emotional equilibrium to say, okay, nobody wins every match forever. Champions keep that meaning they don't get so high when they break the first big rank of diamond or whatever that might be. They don't get all drunk with their own press releases and think they're superhuman. And the same thing when they call four people in a row and four people in a row reject them, they have emotional resilience to say, oh yeah, my sponsor told me about this. Oh yeah, I read about this in the new associate orientation. It's all part of the game, yo. It's all just part of the game. They become perpetual students. They say, okay, what am I doing to work on my communication skills? What am I doing to work on my storytelling skills? What am I doing to become a better coach? How could I develop stronger relationships with people? How can I be more productive? We've talked a lot, a couple of the last two, I think, about the book, Who, Not How, and how to find the right people. And it's about prioritizing, it's about time management. And the single most important thing about being a productive champion, leader, elite level, anything is knowing what to say no to, knowing who to say no to, knowing the stuff that you have to let behind in order to concentrate on the stuff that's going to take you to where you want to go. So it's about network marketing is an industry, but Ann and I and you, we're not in the network marketing industry. We're in the network marketing profession. Our job is to create mastery at our profession. And so when you make that one of your five buckets, that's what feeds all of the other ones. So, all right, next we're going into the skill stack law of duplication. What does that mean? It means the law, right? I'm a big believer in laws, the law of gravity, the law of physics. There are certain things that guide everything. Well, in this case, the law, the skills stack law of duplication is skills only scale if they're duplicable. Great. You are an amazing television personality. You're the morning anchor of the show on the ABC affiliate in your market. You've won 4 Emmys. You've been doing it for 27 years. Great. That's not a skill that most people are going to be able to duplicate. But the skill of, hey, how do I set aside an area in my home to broadcast? And how do I get a decent microphone? And how does the lighting work? And so how could I make a Zoom presentation? That's a skill that can duplicate. The skill of, hey, how do I make an amazing 90-minute presentation on the wonders of Rain International? Not really a skill is going to duplicate. But the skill of, hey, how do I make a compelling invitation to get somebody to watch the monthly thunderstorm Saturday, that's a skill that can duplicate. So here's your cheat questions. Can it be modeled? Can it be taught? Can it be tracked? And can it be duplicated without you? And when you can answer yes to those questions, you're in the law, you're in the zone, you're in the area where you really will get real duplication. So, Annie, you want to talk about building your stack?
Yeah. I think that if you look at this, as Randy says, is the law, lay out the raw, okay,
Mhm.
process. And it's basically 4 steps. Okay, we talk about audit, train, test, and teach. So let's look at each one of those because it's simple to understand. And that is when you audit your skill stack, you're looking to see, well, where's my weakest bucket? Okay, if you look at what we just talked about, where's the weakest bucket? I can tell you, like I mentioned before, my weakest bucket was feeling comfortable talking to people and introducing myself in a in a social situation, and not just from a point of view of who I am as a person, but what I do professionally, and be proud of it, and be able to engage in a conversation that's meaningful, so that I could feel out the other person and see what their interests are, what they're doing, how it relates, how I could be helpful, how I could be impactful for them. So you've got to look at what is your weakest, okay? What is the weakest part of the process for you? What is your weakest skill bucket? And the second is then to immerse yourself, okay, in learning how to be better in that bucket, in that particular skill set. And so it's only going to happen, honestly, guys, is that if you immerse yourself with, learning, books, trainings, finding people who you feel are really, really good at what you want to learn. And you've got an incredible team of leaders here at Rain that can be your skill set training professionals to help you. But you've got to be willing to learn a few new skills. As Randy was talking about, the commentator who's great at doing certain things, that person, no matter how professional they are, has to learn a few new skill sets to be successful here in our profession. And that was something that I personally had to learn because it wasn't part of what I was doing previously. The third is to test it. Okay, apply yourself daily under pressure. Put yourself in situations like I started doing, putting myself in social situations where I had to go up and start talking to people. I even put myself in that situation, as I mentioned, being in the rehab center. I thought every time somebody comes in, it's an opportunity to talk to them about what I do and why I need to get out of this damn bed, okay, and do the things I want to get back to. And it just made me stronger. And it also gave me that resilience to go out there and do it and to be that person that I was telling them about and how I was, excited about what I do. So you have to put yourself in situations that are going to put you under pressure. Maybe it's making calls. Okay, so maybe it's reaching out and doing the text messaging that Randy was saying to become more compelling. And the fourth is to teach it. Okay, I always said, if you want to be good at something, go out there and teach it to somebody else. Because when you teach it to somebody else, guess what? It just reinforces what you're doing in order to get better at it. So those are the four: audit, train, test, and teach. Now, as I mentioned, you don't just do this and then just throw it out, and finish with it. It becomes part of what you do and you make it part of what your life is about. And then you look at the other aspects, as Randy and I talked about. What else can you do to master another skill set? Randy, talk about the next one, which I think is equally as important, especially for those people emerging as leaders.
Well, Anne started off with mind shift, mind share, mindset, right? He said that isn't the key, isn't just doing the mindset, but it is the foundation. It is the first step. Let's take that mindset to the next level and say, what is the mind shift for leaders? because this is what this is about. At this level, we're on module 24, kids. Module 24, we're at leadership level. If you're at this point, you've gone through those things and you've looked at how to talk to people and how to make invitations and how to invite. Right now, we're talking about leadership stuff. And there is a leadership shift that has to occur. And that happens the day you say, I don't need more motivation. I need more muscle memory. I don't need more positive emojis in my WhatsApp groups. I know people that they spend 5 to 7 hours every week closing out the week, or at least that's what they tell themselves they're doing. And what they're doing for literally 5 to 7 hours is smiley, fired up emojis in WhatsApp groups or Telegram groups or Signal groups. And they're just, I'm so fired up. Who else is fired up? Put me 5 fire emojis if you agree with me. I share this, with 3 emojis if you agree with me. And they do that for hours and hours. Whereas maybe if they would have just thought, well, instead of trying to do this frantic emoji-a-thon at 11:57 p.m. Tuesday night before it locks down, what about if I took a few minutes Monday and said, "Hey, Gail, I was looking in your back office and I see you got someone there 30 points away from being partner. Were you aware of that? That they could get a partner bonus for that, $100? Or, hey, you got someone there this much away from senior partner and they get a $200 bonus for that? Or do you realize if that lady got to partner, that would make that guy over there a bronze?" And like real coaching, real communication, real things that we've been talking about here. And you create the muscle memory of all these things. So now instead of the emoji-thon at 10 minutes to close on Tuesday, you're doing something productive on Monday. Then you're doing something productive on Wednesday because you've created this pattern of modeling the behavior of contacting your sponsor, making your commitment for what you want to do for the week, certain number of people you want to approach, or what rank you think you can close with, or what's the volume you think you can achieve this week. This is real world stuff where you're following that skill stack progression that Ann's talked about. We're real world stuff where you're role playing with people, doing their invitations, things like that. And then, so when you make this shift, you realize, okay, it's not my job to light a fire every week. My job is to build a nuclear reactor that provides continuous energy, a self-sustaining process where there are systems, training, tools, and they're in place. And this is what Travis Perry has literally invested millions of dollars in you and your team, building out those tools, those systems, those training, so that you have the generator that is continually operating. And you say, okay, that fuel is there. How do I channel and harness it and turn it into electricity that somebody can put in their home and then turn on the lights in the evening instead of trying to read by candlelight? That's what we do as leaders. So it's not about, and listen, Ann and I both, we all love inspiration as much as the next person does, right? We all want to be motivated. But the real secret of motivation isn't emojis and rah-rah and cliches and platitudes and teamwork makes the dream work. And yeah, we can recite all that stuff all day, all night. But at the end of the day, people want to know, how do I do this? What do I do now? What do I do next? How do I get to where I want to go? And if you make this commitment to developing this stack of skills that will give you all of the leadership credibility, all of the leadership gravitas, all of the leadership inspiration that empowers your people to move forward. So, Anna, I know you're going to give them assignment. Do you want to look at your other sheet, any other notes you put on there that you wanted to, if there's anything that you forgot or we forgot that we should put in,
Well,
or you want to take them straight to their.
I do believe the leadership shift happens for people when they suddenly make the decision personally that they want to really look at this professionally and really want to take those skills that we're talking about and owning them and honing them and getting better at them. Okay. Not just throwing them against the wall, once a week and trying to close out the week, but to really take the system. I keep talking about how I'm so thrilled that we have a system here that I can show to leaders from other companies, and they look at this and they look at these gorgeous tools and they look at these videos and they look at the platform that we have and the training system that we have and the new associate orientation, and they look at all that and they go, it's all here. All I have to do is turn the engine on. Okay, because that's what leaders do. Leaders literally take what Randy was saying, and that is take the system and the tools and all of that, and they light it up. Okay, they turn on the system and they use it as the fire, and they keep that going. You cannot sustain a business. I'm talking from experience. You cannot sustain a business on personality. Okay, you can sustain a business and drive it with skill sets. So, guys, let's talk about what the assignments are for today. Okay, and it's an easy one. Just pick the skill set that you suck at the most. Pick that skill set and make that your month decision to really hone in on that. Okay, go look at some of the other things we've done in the Rainmaker University, some of the other modules that we've done on that skill set, and make that your mission for the month. That you're not only going to sit and learn, because people can take notes and have notebooks all over the place, but you're going to put it into action. And then we'll see how that works out for you for this particular month. And this is an exciting month, okay, guys, because you can make magic happen right now. So, Randy, do a closeout and we'll move on from there.
All right. There is one more module left, number 25. That is the architecture that we've built out together with Travis and Jeff. And from day one, like, okay, what kind of a platform do we need to build out to empower the people who really do want to learn their dreams of rain? So that's coming up next month. If you're watching this live, if you're in the library, it might already be there. But so we've spent our love and guts and blood and sweat and tears to put this together for you for exactly the thing you've heard about this module and you'll hear about in the final one, which is it isn't just the rah-rah, it isn't just the hype, it isn't just the motivation. It's the skills, because when you develop the skills, you become empowered. When you teach the skills, you empower others. And when you teach the people how to teach, you can inspire and empower dozens, and then hundreds, and then thousands, and then tens of thousands. And you can't do that with emojis. You do it with skills. So go out and have an amazing month. We look forward to talking to you next episode. Love you guys. Peace.